I did see this item. Um, I think it was in the Messenger, that Pence had said he was pushing back on the suggestion that abortion hurt the Republican Party. And he had some line about how I categorically reject that. I don't believe that at all, something like that. And I don't think he is lying. Um, uh, but I think it's, this raises a sort of interesting point about what politics is sort of for some people. Like, I know lots of pro-lifers who if I explained to them exactly what would happen, or if I even painted an even more dispiriting picture about what would happen post Dobbs, right? That if Dobbs, if Roe is overturned, then the GOP will find that will kind of fracture, over the issue of abortion and won't know how to talk about it, and Democrats will get gains in all sorts of places, and it'll become a winning issue for Democrats. If I could paint that picture to a lot of pro-lifers, they would have said, get rid of Roe anyway. And this idea that, forget what your own personal position is on abortion. Let's say you're 100% pro-choice or 100% pro-life. The idea that your position on abortion has to make for good politics is kind of a sign of intellectual corruption, right? It is part of the cult of the unity of all good things, that everything right goes together with everything else that is right, and you can never have contradiction in this life. And so the principled position on abortion for pro-lifers, it seems to me, is not, I don't believe that it's bad for Republicans. The principled position for pro-lifers is, I don't care if it's bad for Republicans. Similarly, if you're adamantly pro-choice, the position is, it isn't, well, this is a great issue for Democrats, or even that, well, maybe it's, your position should be that the Democrats should use this as an issue because you want to secure abortion rights. That's all fine for politics. But if you're really adamant about this stuff, you should say, I don't care if it's a bad issue for the Democrats. It's important and the right thing to do. And this applies to all sorts of things. I mean, there are a lot of Democrats who are absolutely convinced on the maximalist arguments about climate change. That's fine. I think they're wrong about the maximalist arguments, but I don't think they're wrong directionally about climate change. And we don't need to get back into the weeds of all that. There's the principled position, which is the party should do what it can to fight climate change. And then there's this prudential question, right? Which is, well, if it's bad for the party, then maybe we shouldn't pursue the maximalist position if we're not going to be able to persuade anybody, or even worse, if taking the maximalist position actually helps people who are on the opposite side of this issue, right? So that's the way abortion politics has worked for a very long time. When Democrats are defending the maximalist position, third trimester, partial birth abortion, all that kind of stuff, they lose, and lose badly. When Republicans are defending the maximalist position on abortion, life begins at conception, no exceptions for rape or incest, banning, even, birth control used to be an argument. It's not really anymore. Republicans lose that argument. And so one of the things that, you need to separate in your mind is the prudential, right? How do we make incremental progress towards the ideal position, right? And remember, ideals are called ideals for a reason. You never actually reach them. They just simply point the direction in which you should go. This is why I said last week, I say every week pretty much, that I'm an idealist about ends in foreign policy, but I'm a realist about means. the same should apply to all sorts of questions in life. Is, you should, if you want to follow a North Star, fine, that's your ideal. You never reach your North Star, right? What is it, the guy, the ethicist said? I can't remember his name. I've written about it a bunch. There was this rabbi, this Jewish ethicist, who was a famous sort of moral and ethical scholar, leader, whatever, who also was quite a philanderer in his private life. And he was asked about the contradiction. And he said, hey, look, the sign pointing towards Boston doesn't go there. And I can sort of mock the cop out that is about your own personal behavior, while at the same time acknowledging that he was right insofar as we're all flawed. We're never going to be perfect. We're never going to live up to all of our ideals all the time in every instance. But that doesn't mean getting rid of your ideals in the name of a self-indulgent kind of anti-hypocrisy ideology. What it says is that you try. And so on things like abortion, climate change, all these things, I think too much of the party, both parties, are captured by, in effect, ideologues. And I got no problem with ideologues. I'm spent most of my life defending ideologues and ideology, and I consider myself something of an ideologue myself. But an ideologue who's ideological about, who's categorical about means, not just ends, is just going to be sort of spinning their wheels and not having any actual influence. And I think that is absolutely fine for people who are writers, intellectuals, philosophers, blah, 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 blah. The closer you get to wanting to be relevant towards politics, the more you have to take that stuff into account. Now, weirdly,